as usual, you're always having a wonderful time. Now, what have I got in today's program? Very interesting, very, very interesting. And I hope, I pray that you listen and see and be attentive and hear what you got to learn in today's program. Now, the State of African Diaspora is a government of Africa in the diaspora. How does this work? And how does this help Africa? When is a government based abroad? How does it work in Africa when a government is based abroad? It's something you got to really hear about because it's very interesting when I heard it. Now, the African Union endorsed the idea in 2003 at the end of the annual summit, declaring it's an effective entity contributing to the economic and social development of the continent. How does this happen? Again, it's something that you got to learn. Now, with over $10 billion remitted to Africa each year by the Africans in the diaspora, they can influence the policies on the continent. The question is it working? $10 billion going on the continent? But do we really have an influence on what is going on on the African continent? These are things we really need to learn as Africans who are living here in the diaspora. With me in the studio is Remi Dada, the founder of a School of African Languages based in the UK, working with universities, also the Chief Special Advisor with the African Diaspora Ministry of Culture based here in the UK. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The state of the African Diaspora government in the UK, and not in the UK, in the diaspora.
Yeah.
Somebody on the street here who's an African, or in the streets in Lagos, in Nigeria, or in Kampala, Uganda, hears that and said, look, a government abroad, how does that happen? How does that help the African continent?
The State of the African Diaspora, it's an amazing organization. So I'll just talk you through a little bit of who we are. So the State of the African Diaspora, we were actually, yes, it was announced in the African Union, you're absolutely right, in 2003, but we launched in July 2018. That's when it was actually mandated by the chairman of the time of the African Union, Mohamed Aziz.
Mohamed Aziz.
And he had mandated Dr. Louis Tin, who is the Prime Minister currently of the State of the African Diaspora. So where this all came about is when you look at it, we've got over 350 million people, inhabitants within the African diaspora. So when you look at that and you look at the figures, you realize that it's just about, just below the number of America and China when you look at it in terms of population. So it's an amazing thing in terms of having a state of the African diaspora that takes into account all the thoughts, the different sorts of systems that the African diaspora can bring. So what it is really is essentially just bringing all the African diasporans together as a cohesive unit, so we can come together and work togetherness.
The key thing is, how does this help the African continent? That is the key, because you bring them together. Are they going to get jobs in Africa? Are they going to get, what does that, because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, we have a government here. There are policies, there's money going in Africa. But if there's a particular policy we don't want, can we stand in and say, hey, don't do that. We won't send any money to you, or we won't do this. Do we go in and advise, like there's a war in Ethiopia at the moment? Do we go in and have something to say about that war? What does it, when it sits down, which are some of its achievements in terms of what it really does? Because it's one thing getting together, it's another thing coming out with something.
So the State of the African Diaspora, we run as a parliament. So we have a parliamentary structure. We have the Prime Minister, Dr. Louis Tin. We have 22 ministers within the
Whoa.
actual parliament. Exactly, yeah.
Whoa.
So this also mirrors the number of parliaments that you have today in the UK, for example, you know, but it's obviously it's on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
But what this means essentially is that once you become a citizen of the state of the African diaspora, you actually receive an ID card. This is when it becomes interesting.
You get an ID card?
You get an ID card, correct. Because what that ID card is showing is that you are a citizen of the state of the African diaspora, which is known as the 6th region.
Okay.
So, you know,
what the 6th region.
Correct, So what this means is that it gives its power. We have influence. We have 350 million people within the state of the African diaspora. It's essentially a country. So that means with that's major power in terms of, you know, intellectually, financially, culturally, socially. These are all the different influences that we can have within Africa based on having a parliament that can bring all of us together and to raise our voice and be counted.
I do agree with that. Now, when do you always meet? If at all there's any meetings at all that take place?
There are meetings.
Virtual meetings.
Yes. So the thing about the state of the African diaspora, as you can imagine, everyone is scattered all over the world. So we always hold virtual meetings. Now, as you had mentioned, I'm the chief of special advisors, correct? So my role, I wouldn't partake in those meetings as such as often, but my thing is to contact with the Minister of Culture. So that's my main contact, Minister Namdi. So that is who I connect with. But in regards to meetings, absolutely they hold meetings generally like any parliament would. The other day, Minister Namdi was on a parliamentary meeting for over 4 hours.
Really?
Absolutely, because you can imagine the wealth of information that comes in from so many different, you know, countries and ministers and issues that need to be discussed.
Okay. Now, the another thing I'm looking at, which is the structure of Africa as it is, and as it is, you're looking at the entire continent.
Yeah.
But sometimes when we talk of Africa, we forget the northern part of Africa. We forget the Arabs in the north, Algeria, Egypt, and Libya, and all those. We tend to have said, look, we're talking about Africa. But in most senses, in actual sense, we mean the other parts of Africa where black people are.
I understand.
How have you included these people so that they can be part of this, the Africans in diaspora? Because at one time I interviewed an Egyptian and he was telling me, man, I don't know anything other than football and other things that we get involved in. How do you pull them so that they can be part of the system as well?
Well, you know, as we said, we're mandated by the African Union. So the fact that we're mandated by the African Union, that's our way in. That's the way that's the way that, you know, the information is passed through. We are able to have that discussion and that back and forth with them quite freely.
Okay. Now, the thing is when it comes to influence, because this is where my biggest concern is, influence. If there is something that can really be done, because we want to help the African continent. I personally want to, and I'm sure hundreds of Africans who are in diaspora want to help. But coming to selecting issues that say, okay, for example, we talk about agriculture, we talk about medical health, we talk about all the economical structures that will help. Are there any specific, say for example, if we talk about the one you advise the minister with in language, how do you go about with that, with your role?
Okay, so the wonderful thing again is there's all processes and systems in place, and this allows you to bring forth any sort of new subjects, innovative subjects that have come about, or if there's something that you have heard that is related to your area. So for example, as you said, I'm in culture. So my specialism is languages. So for example, recently, as you probably know, so the African Union adopted Swahili to be one of the languages. And similarly, in the state of the African diaspora, we also have a number of languages that we use as, you know, working languages within the state of the African diaspora. So, you know, this includes the likes of French, you know, Spanish, Portuguese, and also Swahili as well. So it mirrors the African Union.
Okay.
So when it comes to things as in influencing, again, it's the fact that there are different points of contact in Parliament.
Okay.
So based as a citizen of the state of the African diaspora, it's exactly the same as the power that you have as a citizen in your country.
All right.
You're able to vote.
Okay.
So an issue comes up or a policy comes up. As a state of the African diaspora and citizen, you have that power. Your voice will be heard in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where your influence lies.
The language structure.
Yes.
How are you going to influence that so that Africa has adapted Swahili?
This is, yes, African Union has adapted. So our thing, the School of African Languages, what we do is we develop and we are looking like gatekeepers or the safeguarding of African languages, because we know that culture and language, they're synonymous. They work together. You know, you can't split one without the other.
No, you can't.
So our role is essentially we see ourselves as the people that are helping to keep the languages alive. So we are talking about teaching the African diasporans the different African languages, not just one language. We roll out several different languages: Yoruba, Igbo, you know, Luganda, Luo, Duoluo, you know, from Cameroon, Congo, so many different languages. You know, the language in Congo, Bakongo, even in Angola, and several other countries, in Ghana, etc. So the whole thing with the language is how I influence is by just talking to the number of university students that we have done, speaking to them, making them aware of the state of the African diaspora. So their voice can be heard, because they are the future. They're the ones that have the skills. There's the brain drain in Africa.
Of course, it's the biggest. It's one of the biggest in the world.
Absolutely. So our hope and our aim as a School of African Languages, and working alongside someone like Minister Namdi in the state of the African diaspora, we can help to influence in that way and give the students a voice as well for the future.
Budget.
Yes.
Is a major thing. When I sit down with the Africans, not just the Africans, with everybody, really, the key thing I always try to emphasize, I say, look, if something hasn't got money flowing into it, there is always the possibility that it will go on, but at a certain level, it might come down, because we are influenced by. We are human beings. We need. We have needs.
Absolutely.
There's money needed to do left and right. There's money to make this thing even much more bigger.
Absolutely.
Is there some kind of resource somewhere where not a big resource, not a jackpot somewhere, but somewhere a resource where something is coming in,
of course,
and because you're going to travel to different universities. Even if you're not traveling and sending emails, the time is one of the most difficult, important thing in life. You lose it, then you've lost everything.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
It doesn't come back.
You know, we would love a wishing well of money, like a never-ending pile.
Do you have a source? Is there a source?
This is the thing. So where we are right now, we are launching the diplomatic mission.
In Brixton.
Correct, yes, in Brixton. And that's being launched on Thursday, the 16th of June. So this year. What that means is we are now having a presence here. So we're building awareness right now of our presence. And once we are able to establish a need for us here, that's when we will turn into an embassy. Once we have the embassy status, that is where the difference will lie. Because right now, a lot of us are putting our time voluntary, as you said, our time, you know, it's a currency. Once you've spent your time, you'll never get it back again. But it's the most powerful resource we have at the moment, which is the time and the skills of all the ministers that have put their time and resources into it. So in terms of, do we have a source? We are all the source. It's the people.
What I look at more or less is that in order for ministers not to give up, they may be having they got jobs where they're working in companies and so on. And the thing is it could be that somebody tomorrow wants to contribute so much, but the problem is he's got family issues at home, he has got bills to pay and all that. So somewhere along the way, I would think that the African Union and maybe the African countries and said, look, okay, in order to sustain this thing as it's going to be,
Yeah.
helping the continent.
Yeah.
Let's put together some of something that we can put down.
Oh, I
because
understand.
the African Center
Yeah.
in London used to have, I think President Museveni of Uganda and I think Tanzania, a couple of presidents in Africa used to sponsor it and
Right.
put some money down to
Right.
help it survive.
Right.
But I don't even know whether it's still existing at the
Yes,
moment.
it is actually. We
it's
actually
still-
speak to the Africa Centre as well,
Okay.
so we've got connections there as well. But yes,
its whole thing had
Yeah,
been resolved
yeah.
around failure to earn enough
yes,
in terms of grants coming its way,
That's
in
it.
terms of rich Africans
Yeah.
providing, putting some sums down.
Which is
so
true.
it would have really done quite a lot, especially as far as the educational grants are concerned. So that's why I'm saying, look, if the whole structure doesn't have early beginning
Yeah.
of where the budget is standing and where the
Yes.
money is going to come
Yeah.
from, then you are likely to have a government in the diaspora which is weak and poor.
absolutely, and I'm in agreement with you. I
Yeah.
think when it comes to budgets and that sort of thing, you know, that again is a different area to
Okay.
what I'm aware of.
Okay.
So it's one of these things where I am aware that when we are giving our resources, especially as a special advisor, my resource which I can give is my time and my skills.
Okay.
When it comes to the budget, the best person would be the Minister of Finance. That's the person that holds the purse strings. Like,
They don't let you know the secrets.
we
of
don't know
no,
the
no.
secrets.
There's a godfather lying somewhere. There's a godfather somewhere who's saying, pulling the
I'm
strings.
telling you,
Yeah.
but the thing is, the one thing that we need to be mindful of as well is we don't always want to accept, especially as a governmental, you know, entity.
Yeah.
You don't always want to accept money from just individuals,
Yeah,
especially just specific countries, because
Yeah,
you don't want to fall into favoritism,
Oh, yeah,
bribery,
absolutely, absolutely.
etc.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the fact that we are mandated by the African Union,
Okay.
it leads me to believe, in my opinion,
Yeah, yeah.
it would be that situation where the African Union would be the purse string
of course,
holder.
of course,
That's the person.
No, that's something I expected. So
Yes.
it's the
Yeah.
African Union. It's mandated.
Exactly.
So then it's
Yes.
the African Union to say, hang on a minute, we need to keep you guys going. I think let's give you something
This is it.
annually coming in so that you survive. Otherwise, if they don't do that and they expect a lot from you, then there are chances that things are going to, are not going to work out as we go along. That's my main worry. Anyway.
I completely understand. I think what it is they've carefully balanced it.
Okay.
So what I am aware of is we have a lot of support from the African Union.
Okay.
In terms of how much or in terms of what exactly it is, I wouldn't be able to clarify it for you right now.
Yeah, okay.
But it is a situation where I know that, African Union, they've given us so much support. Again, we are mandated by them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that even in the future, once we are established as an embassy, the African Union will be extremely...
How did these people get their roles now? Does it come through elections and something like that? How do you get yourself now to be a special advisor? Somebody to be a minister.
Right.
We have a prime minister as well.
Yes.
Are these roles, you sit down and get the elections? If I get my card tomorrow, as I'm going to become a member, and then annual meeting sits and they said, look, I would really probably stand as a Minister of Information.
Right.
I would really like that.
Yes.
How do I go about that so that tomorrow I'm a Prime Minister or a Minister of Information in that cabinet?
Well, I would say good luck, first and foremost, to begin with. And then I would say again, this is the first time. So the state of the African diaspora has just been founded in 2018. You know what I mean by it was mandated, as I said, by the African Union. What happened is the Prime Minister Louis Tin was mandated. Then from him, what he then done is he was the person who then sourced through different recommendations in terms of who the team could potentially be. Because this is the first time. So for everyone to vote, there's no one to vote. Because we're the state of, we've just established ourselves in that instance.
Is there a constitution?
There is a constitution in place now.
If the constitution is in place,
yes, correct.
Then we probably need to see how the constitution will be,
Yes.
come into effect.
Yes.
And then people who are outsiders, people
Right.
who are keen on,
Yes.
on contributing in
Absolutely.
terms of serving,
Yes.
would think and say, look, I think I better get in now.
Yes.
Get
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
or, That
There is
what
a process. No, you're absolutely right. There
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a process. So the Constitution is in place.
Okay.
And the Constitution was built upon these ministers that have just been put into place as well,
Okay,
over these past years. So again, that will then lay out how many years of service, how many years is your tenure, or how many years,
Okay.
you'll be in that position for. It also outlines the elections, how the elections will take place.
Okay.
It will.
Okay.
It also
you haven't had elections at all?
So we have not had elections at all as
right.
yet, because this is the founding
Okay.
committee,
Okay.
So it's one of those sort of things where, again, it was based on potential recommendations, like
right.
Dr. Louis Tin, the Prime Minister,
Okay.
who was, again, chosen
Yeah.
to actually do this.
Right.
So based on his skills, based on his knowledge and his resources that he had, he knew who he wanted on the
Okay.
team to
Okay.
start and found it.
Another thing,
Yes.
which is interesting here, I've seen this quite a number of times. I'm a member of the African Cooperative Union,
Fantastic.
and we get a lot of things. And say one of the things I'm looking at right now, a question that comes to my mind, is if we get a British person or an American person,
Yes.
or a German person who's interested in serving as a
Yes.
minister,
Yes.
who's also interested in being part of the African diaspora. He may not have been born in Africa,
Yes.
but he has something to contribute
Yes.
towards that.
Yeah.
Is he allowed into the cabinet?
So the way it is based on, it's more about African descent.
Okay.
So the African diaspora is situated around the African people of African descent.
Is South
So
African?
when
Is
you
South
look-
Africa, a white South African, is
South
an African
Africa,
descent.
what-
or even a Zimbabwean. There's
Which
several
is-
Zimbabweans who are.
Which is true.
Yeah,
Now the thing is it's about the semantics in terms of what is classed
Okay.
as
Okay.
African descent, because
Okay.
let's be honest, that can be argued.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
It can. Yeah.
And looking at the ministers that we have, they're, the grouping that we have, it's a diverse group
Okay.
of people and individuals, and they appear to be of African descent. But
Okay.
what does it mean to appear? So it's something that can be definitely argued. But in terms of the process, if someone is interested in becoming a minister or the state of the African diaspora, become a citizen. Become a citizen first. Receive your ID card.
okay.
Go through the process of being a citizen.
Yeah.
I know that in some countries, if I was to get a paperwork in South Africa today, I cannot vote straight away as a citizen.
No, you
I have
can't.
to be there for a certain number
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
So again, it's just getting an understanding of what's needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another critical point, which is always very crucial when it comes to Africans, is something to do with gender. And gender, we normally tend to say, okay, women have broken into above the ceiling. You are here now. You're a woman.
Yeah.
Obviously, the ceiling is there. Women have conquered everything.
Absolutely.
In
Trying
terms
to.
of, is there some kind of a mandate where they said, okay, we should have these positions filled by women, so that we have maybe 8 or 9 women in cabinet, like Rwanda does, Uganda is doing that now,
Okay,
Kenya is doing
okay.
it. These African countries are saying, look, if there's that imbalance, if we let them fight the elections, the chances are most likely people will vote the men in. But let's make sure that we first of all give them the role, and then later on the other young women will be encouraged as well to join and say, is there something like that in terms of helping create the balance in gender in terms of the cabinet?
What I can tell you
Yeah.
is that there's 22 ministers at present, and 9 of which are
women.
female. Correct.
Okay.
We also have a vice prime minister
With a female.
who is a female.
All right.
Correct.
Okay.
So the Vice Prime Minister Keturah Amwoka, she's actually, you know, again, she's a lady, she's a female, and we have 8 other ministers that are females, and this is in a range of roles. This is in digital economy, home affairs, you know, a number of different roles, which essentially sometimes wouldn't be looked upon as a female role. And when you look in the UK right now in Parliament, there's 650 MPs. 225 as of today are female. So that's 35%. So when you look at things now, it still shows you that there may not be equality as such. There's still inequality. We can look at the gender inequality and pay inequality. You know, even I was looking at something the other day in France. A white French person will get paid 100 euros, whereas a black or Arab woman will only get 51 euros. So I think it's a thing whereby it's about equality, or, you know, women being seen for their skill set. So that's what I can say is right now we do have 9 out of 22 ministers, and I think that's a brilliant number so far.
It is. So it's not constitutionally put in there that we need to have this. It's not in the constitution anymore.
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't want to say that it is in the constitution, but I would like to say that, you know, I believe that it's something there about equality, because I do understand that the state of the African diaspora is about. We promote equality. We promote gender. We promote gender pay, equal gender pay. You know, that's literally one of the policies that we were looking upon. You know, so it's definitely something that we take very seriously. Absolutely. In that. Yeah, absolutely. The seriousness comes in even more so. Yes.
I believe you fought tooth and nail.
I'm telling you for that one.
That happened. That happened. Another thing that I've always looked at. This is something connected with the Chinese now. And maybe the African in the diaspora would be more advisable to what is going on the African continent in terms of what the Chinese have done in practice. In practice, when they come in, they buy land, they do this, they're in various African countries. And maybe if I'm to be a member of parliament there, or even to be an advisor there, say, look, what can we advise the African governments to be aware of in terms of what they're doing and where the money is, you know, they're coming in with money, they're coming in with loans, they're coming in with all that, and what is there to be expected, what might come, because we're going to be bankrupt in years to come when they own most of what we have. So I don't know whether the parliament has had an idea on that issue.
What I can say, in my opinion and factually, is that China, the Chinese or China, they have been, those that are in Africa are normally there and developing things. So they're developing infrastructure, they're doing manufacturing, they're doing fisheries and all these different types of things. So it's not to penalize just one country or one group of people. But what essentially it is about is Africa is waking up to anyone who wishes to come in who is not African. We are now, we've woken up now. It's about empowering ourselves. Hence why, again, the state of the African diaspora is there. It's about empowering. It's about realizing that the African diaspora has such large numbers, which means that we have influence, which translates into power. I had read recently, there was a round table with Yinka Adegoke from Quartz, from the Quartz magazine, and what she had said is that I don't want to misquote her, but she was just talking about how powerful financially and you know, intellectually that the African diaspora are. And with our knowledge and returning back to Africa, there's so much more that can happen. But it's also a thing of removing barriers to investments, because that stops us from returning as well.
Now, another thing would be, when you're dealing with governments, African governments, I think the Ugandan government had made a suggestion, and I think the Kenyans are coming to that, And Zimbabweans are soon embracing the same issue, whereby they will allow their own people who are living in the diaspora to have a say within their governments. I was interviewing a Zimbabwean gentleman here, and was telling me that his party, that is the ruling party in Zimbabwe, was addressing that issue where their voices now are being heard in the Zimbabwean parliament because they have a representative in the parliament who left here and comes back every now and then and inform them on what is going on in Zimbabwe. If they have problems with investment or anything of that nature, then it goes back to Zimbabwe and he addresses the issue. Now, I don't know whether it could be something similar with the Africans in the diaspora government to say, okay, we need you to have representatives in Ghana, for example. The Ghanaian government is very open. The Nigerians or other parts, I don't know, but look at that and say, look, let's have somebody sitting there in parliament and listening to the arguments as well, and says, look, he puts our points across because he's lived with us here. He knows what's going on. Is there something like that within the African
That's
parliament?
Who we are. That's who we are. So we've got as I said, the launch of the diplomatic mission in the UK, in London. So what that means is we are that person. We'll be that person that the African diaspora can feed to. That then will be fed to the state of the African, the state of the African diaspora, which will be fed to the African Union. So in that way, it works exactly the same way in the sense that you have a representative. And it's funny you say that because, again, by having that power to vote, it's the overseas vote. You get South Africans a few years back that were voting at the embassy. I
remember that.
And it's a powerful thing where people felt that, I'm going to be heard, even though I'm not there. And that is the state of the African diaspora. We are giving you a chance to be heard in a country that you may not be in, but you may be from. So this includes anyone of African descent. Let your voice be heard. Speak up, be heard, be counted, and sign up to become the citizen of State of African Diaspora.
Is there a way you're going to have a magazine or a newspaper that can bring out this information? Because one of the things that usually puts us down is lack of information. We rarely have, we can read the Times of London, we can read the Nigerian Times or whatever, but if you get a huge voice or a newspaper that can be circulated across the continent with the ideas and issues.
Very true,
Is that in a pipeline at all?
So we do have a newsletter. I was waiting for you. We do have a newsletter. So there's a newsletter that is in circulation. And what we're doing is with the launch of the diplomatic mission, that it's all about raising awareness right now. So you're absolutely right. We do want to have the newsletter to go out and reach, have a wider reach. Absolutely. Because you want people to join, be heard. You want people to understand the many different achievements that are happening. Prime Minister Louis Tin, what he had done is he was able to influence the French law. In the absolute about reparations and restitution. So he was able to go forward about the Benin to return artifacts.
Benin.
Absolutely. So
the
he
BBC
went to EU.
Yes, I remember that.
So it was an amazing achievement. So things are happening with the state of the African diaspora, and that's due to the fact that we have people in the right places doing the right work.
Another thing would probably be. What am I? Another thing would probably be when the office opens up. And once it's opened up, is there plans to say the Africans in France, the Africans in Germany, the Africans in Italy, the Africans all over the European continent, and the Africans in the US? Now, the structure of it becomes much easier for somebody to walk into Blixton and say, look, I'm from Uganda, I'm from Kenya, and this ABCD, can I have, because much easier than dealing with the emails and all that. I don't know whether what kind of effect that's going to have on the Africans, not just here in the UK, but all over Europe, Western governments. What sort of influence would that be?
Okay, so with the Brixton launch that we're doing, it's the diplomatic mission. So the diplomatic mission essentially is when a state sends out, sends out a state to represent. So what that will mean is
it's going to be a unique one because it's a state without a state. That's the whole point. How can you have a state without a state?
Because we are the
only
state.
In Africa.
Exactly. I'm telling you, because this is the thing. This is a groundbreaking thing that we are doing. When you look at it, it's it's almost like a movement because it's giving everyone the opportunity to belong.
Okay.
So the state just means that we are the sixth region. So we're actually recognized as such, working alongside the economic community as well, so that gives us even more validation, even though it's not needed, but it gives us that extra validation.
Would there be some problems with the African diplomats here in the UK, because they have a union of African diplomats here in the UK, and where they're going to put you as diplomats as well when you're here in the diaspora as a full cabinet outside Africa, and then you have the African diplomats who are representing their own countries and have something similar. Wouldn't there be some kind of a conflict of interest in a way?
It is.
If they're interested in doing something and suddenly it's overtaken by you.
I think it's all about communication. It's all communication. Communication is key. And the beautiful thing is having clear channels. Then things aren't crossing over. And I think a lot of the time what tends to happen is some people may come out of their remit and cross over into another area. But what's happened is there's clear, succinct rules and processes that allow you to realize, okay, if this needs to happen, this is what I need to do, etc. So in terms of the diplomats, that's their role. They have a different type of role to the ministers that are here. So we don't have ministers that are assigned to a country. We have ministers assigned to different departments and faculties. So you will never have the minister of Ghana within the state of the African diaspora. We would work with the minister of Ghana, so there would never be a conflict in that way.
Nepotism.
Yes.
And there's a lot of nepotism within the Africans, and there is a lot of my that connections with the way people are given certain positions and the way things move within. We know this. We know the problem.
Yes, absolutely,
but,
absolutely.
The key thing is how to safeguard that it doesn't even come to accompany us when we leave it in Africa, and then it comes here and it's still following us. Is there some kind of safeguard somewhere where I wouldn't have my brother as my deputy?
This is the thing. It's all based upon your skill set and democracy. You have to be voted in. You have to have an election. You have to go through the processes of that to be voted into your position. So right now, you're absolutely right. Right now, people were not voted in. They were recommended in, and they were chosen specifically for their skill set to help found the state of the African diaspora. However, moving forward, it will be a case, exactly what you're saying, it will be very democratic in the way things are done. You would have to vote. The people that had the most votes, received the most votes, are the ones which will take office. So that's how it will go forward. So that will be the way to safeguard that.
So that's the only way to safeguard the nepotism kind of structure.
In my opinion, I believe so. I think democracy speaks for itself. I think, in certain cases, let's say two brothers, they may be phenomenal in two different areas. Why would you want to stop one from from
becoming a minister?
Exactly. When you know that person, I can even quote the Labour brothers, the two Labour brothers that were running.
They ran for the elections. I remember that.
And it was the one who the one who wins is the one who wins. So they both ran for the same position. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that sort of thing.
When you look at the future,
yes,
you've looked at the foundation.
Yeah.
How it started.
Yes.
How it's going.
Yes.
and you're looking at the going is okay as you're driving, it's being driven very well. Are there problems along the way that have been overcome? Or how do you see that once you have overcome those problems, you won't have any more problems coming your way in terms of, like, you're advising the minister on issues.
Yes.
But as you're advising him, obviously there will be things which there's always a problem somewhere.
I agree.
Yeah. How do you see the future of the state of the African diaspora government in terms of how it tackles some of the problems that we have here and some of the problems in Africa? Because the key thing is, my main worry is to see the influence on the African continent. Because we normally tend to, if somebody's a Nigerian, you probably want, if he's an Igbo man and he's a minister and he's trying to advise the Nigerian government, and somebody in the government in Nigeria is not Igbo or Yoruba, you're going to find difficulties in doing that. Now, to overcome that, you send a Ugandan instead, who's not a Nigerian, to do something like that. These are some of the things I'm looking at. Are they being addressed? Because that is where the biggest problem has been with Africa.
So my role is the special advisor. So, you know, my thing is or my remit is to oversee all the special advisors as the state of African diaspora. So in short, I don't have a full answer for that one. But what I can say to you is that, you know, in my role, when problems arise, I know it's a thing where we're solution focused. You know, it's a thing of coming to them with being proactive. So that's really what it's about. And I do believe that those sort of things will, of course, have been thought over. Absolutely.
A kind of an ombudsman, where somebody goes and hears the problems and can report that a certain minister has done this. Is that in position as well? Where I can easily say, me and you, for example, have had some misunderstanding or something, and I can say, I'm going over to a prime minister and explaining that you haven't understood me properly. Is there something similar to that?
There's always dispute resolution. Always. I think within African parliaments, you have to have that. You know, you have to have that skill of conflict management. But at the same time, it's that thing where there's processes in place. So, you know, to report complaints and that sort of thing. It's just to make sure that things are dealt with smoothly.
We're coming towards the end of the program. And I don't know whether there's anything else that you can advise Africans to do before we go.
Yes, I would definitely say the key thing is to become and be heard. Let your voice be heard. Become, receive your ID. Become a citizen of the state of the African diaspora. Because that way you can have influence. You can change the future. You can change things. You are the people that are intellectual. You are the people that can change the whole environment socially, culturally. Get on board. Learn your language is what I have to say in there as well. Learn your language.
Of course, we try and do that, and we learn most of the African languages. Remy, it's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Coming, Africa Speaks, and telling us all about the Africa in the diaspora government. And I do hope that most of our viewers have enjoyed the show and will get their IDs. I'll definitely get mine, and I want to say I'm probably going to get mine from you.
Yes, you will. Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you very much for viewing us, and hope we'll be together again next week for another edition of Africa Speaks. Thank you, and may God bless you all.